plenty of things that you are allowed to eat, plenty of things that you can eat. But the thing to remember with your diet is do not lose that purpose. Welcome everybody to the B. Christopher podcast. I am B. Christopher, and this is where we talk about all things with the intersection of faith, fitness, and life. We're going to be talking about something that plagues a whole lot of people. We're going to be discussing the diet and how you can have a biblical worldview about what it is that you are eating and how that's going to with your fitness. So starting off, let's get into a word of prayer. Have God guide us through everything that we're doing as we have our time together. So let's get things rolling, all right? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the that we have together. We thank you for your ever-present hand that is here guiding us, leading us, and encouraging us throughout this where we seek to have a better life, a healthier life, so that we may glorify these and we may lead. Guide my words, guide our path, and guide everything that we do so that we can be an inspiration to others, a light to the world, salt to the earth, bringing good things you have desired. In your son, Jesus, we thank you and we praise you. Amen. All right, so let's just dive into it. I want to let you know we've got 3 things that we're definitely going to be covering over this, which will help you out in getting a good diet and understanding how it is that you need to look at your diet. So first, we're going to be covering macros, and we're going to cover flexible diet, and then we're going to also cover your metabolism. Make sure that you watch the entire podcast because there's going to be a ton of good nuggets here that you're going to be able to walk away with, and it will help you out throughout your daily fitness journey. First question that we want to often ask when it comes to our diet is, what is the purpose of a diet? When we look at 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 12, it gives us a little bit of an insight. I'm going to be starting off at verse 12 going through verse 13. It says, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. Food is for the stomach, and the stomach is for food, but God will do away with them both. Yet the body is not for immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord is for the body. All right, so when we first look at this at first glance, we may say, man, I'm not sure what this really means, or I'm not sure how this pertains. They're talking a lot here about food. Food that was taken and that was burned and offered to idols. And then people at that time in Corinth were trying to figure out, should we eat this? Should we not eat this, right? Similar question that you're dealing with. Are there things that we should eat? Are there things that we need to stay away from? What is it that God wants as far as our diet? One of the things that he tells us, he says, all things are lawful. There's plenty of things that you are allowed to eat, plenty of things that you can eat. But the thing to remember with your diet is do not lose that purpose. That purpose is that your body is made to glorify God. You are supposed to glorify God with your body. It is supposed to be a tool to help you with that. 2 verses a little bit further on that point this out very, very clear in the same chapter, verse 19-20, still in 1 Corinthians chapter 6. It says, or do you not know that the temple of the Holy Spirit, whom you have from God, and that you are not your own? For you have been bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body. This is still in that same context of food. The food is meant to help you glorify God with your body and glorify God through your actions and how you live your life. Okay, so you have to look at your foods and say, does this help get me closer to my goal? If it helps you get closer to your goal, then absolutely that's something that you should be considering, something you should look into, and you're probably going to say, okay, this is a food that I need to prioritize. But there are some foods where you look and you say, okay, this food is taking away from my goal. This is a food that I'm either going to use sparingly or a food that I'm not going to use at all. But what is most important about that is in the rules that you are putting in place for your diet, or rather the rules that your diet is supposed to put in place, we need to make sure that those rules do not become your master. You got to learn, master your diet. Don't let your diet master you. I've seen a ton of people where they look miserable as they're meal prepping, as they're bringing their food in for work, as they're bringing their food in from the gym. It's just, man, you know what? I'm not enjoying this at all. A lot of you out there are probably looking at your diet and saying, I don't want to go on a diet. Why? Because I understand that this is something that I'm not ready for, something that I don't want to do, or something that I just don't like. One of the things that we really need to understand with this is your diet is supposed to provide you with freedom. Okay, your diet is supposed to help you have a better life. Your entire overall fitness journey is to make you into a far better person than where you were before you started. If you start finding that your diet is making you grumpy, if you start finding that your diet is something that you hate, then you need to start reevaluating that. Don't allow your diet to be like Ultron in the Marvel movies. Okay, in the Avengers, Tony Stark created this artificial intelligence. He created this program that was supposed to help him out, right? It's supposed to do good for the world, help other people. But instead, it ended up becoming something that tried to destroy the world and tried to destroy people. The very thing that he created became the very thing that started to destroy creation. Don't let your diet become Ultron. But of course, there's a huge difference. Not only was Ultron a machine, but Ultron had a whole lot more wit and a whole lot more humor, and it was backed by one of my favorite actors, James Spader. Your diet needs to be something that you enjoy, okay? Like when you're watching a movie, like if you like that movie, your diet needs to be something that you look at it and you say, I look forward to my next meal. I look forward to what I'm doing. If it is something that has made you a slave and you hate things, you need to start reevaluating what it is that you're putting into your body. Sticking with the Marvel theme, your diet is supposed to be a tool. Much like that knife that Thanos had, it's supposed to be perfectly well balanced. When we look at balance, we oftentimes look at it as, I need to make sure that I'm balancing, my breads with my meats and my vegetables and the fruits, right? And those things are true. We'll get into that in a bit, but the thing that is most important is making sure that you're able to have balance in your overall life with the enjoyment. Are you going to want to have every exact meal that you have planned out? Are you going to want to have restrictions at all? No. Oftentimes there's a lot of stuff that you're going to really just want to eat and it's not going to be healthy. Okay? You're going to have to step back from that. You're going to have a balance of self-restraint, but also you're going to have a balance of some freedom as well. Life is going to be terrible if you're hating everything that you put into your body and you're hating every time you have to eat. Eating should not be a chore. Eating should be a joy. And with that, macros is something that really helps us out. Macros, very simple. We're looking at the macronutrients. That's what macros is short for. The big things that help guide what we're eating. That comes down to three main things. It's your protein, your carbs, and your fats, okay? When you manipulate or adjust those things, then you'll start seeing either a lot of results or you'll see less results if you're not doing it in an efficient manner. One of the things that is really important to understand with this is your proteins is what your body is going to use to rebuild the muscle, and it's going to be used to build better muscle and it's going to be used for your skeletal system, your nervous system. It's what your body uses as the building blocks to rebuild itself. Not just from working out, but just through life in general. Okay. Now, when it comes to your carbs and your fats, your body's going to use that for your energy, and it will take one or the other. But what's important is that your body can only take protein to rebuild itself and to keep itself healthy. Your body's going to use carbs or fats for energy, but if it lacks carbs or fats, your body can use protein for energy as well. Okay. So if I'm going to look at one of the three, what I'm going to focus on the one that can be used to interchange for both energy and building muscle versus your carbs and your fat, which is only going to be there to give you energy. Okay. Focus on your protein first. That's the thing that you prioritize. Everything else will start falling into place. That's one simple step that you can take to get healthier, but allowing yourself to have some flexibility. As we're saying, your body's made to glorify God, and you want to make sure that you're not mastered by anything. Don't allow your diet to master you. Bake in some flexibility. Focusing on the big things like the macros is going to be something that will help you out with that. That's why I'm a huge proponent of flexible dieting. So one of the things that we don't want to have happen is you're going to need that protein to rebuild itself. Your body won't be able to rebuild if it only has carbs and fats, or it's not having enough protein. Don't end up like the Mr. Potato Head, where you've got your eyes, you've got your nose, but you're completely missing your mouth and your ears because you're not giving your body what it needs. Things are all out of place. Things are all out of order because you haven't fed your body with the things that it needs in order to grow. When we start looking at our food as our building blocks, then that phrase, you are what you eat, becomes a lot more real. And actually, it's something that helps us get into a place where we say, okay, I'm comfortable and I'm okay with not eating certain things that I used to like. Why? Because you understand that purpose. I'm here to glorify God with my body. There are some extra things that I want to do. In glorifying God, I'm going to get some enjoyment out of some of the stuff that I like doing. Hiking, biking, playing with your kids, not getting winded when you go up the stairs. All of these things are things that you can achieve, and the diet is supposed to be a tool that helps you get there, not something that prevents you from wanting to do it in the first place. This is part of why I'm a huge fan of flexible dieting, because with flexible dieting, it allows you mentally and emotionally to be able to continue to move forward, because you're not looking at every meal saying, this is so strict, now I've become a slave. Because that's what slave drivers are. They're strict. They set up so many boundaries to where you feel you have no freedom. And in fact, that's the actual definition of slavery, is not having freedom. Your diet is supposed to give you freedom. So bake in that flexibility. So don't end up screaming out to your diet what Obi-Wan Kenobi said. He says, you've become the very thing that you swore to destroy. Your diet is supposed to destroy the slavery. It's supposed to destroy the sense of not having freedom. When your diet takes that away from you, then that's absolutely a bad thing. So I like to focus on the 3 T's that help bake in some of that freedom and help make sure that you have a better life. The first of those 3 T's is going to be time. My wife does not like a diet. Okay, she likes eating what she likes eating. She wants to make sure that that's something that she has. So one of the things that we manipulate to give her a little more flexibility with that is we manipulate her time, when she eats and how long during the day she's able to eat. You'll often hear this as intermittent fasting. So for that, she understands I'm allowed to eat all things. However, I'm not just going to go in off willy-nilly and have whatever it is that I want. I'm going to have some self-control. So my control is going to be set up in the form of time. I'm only going to eat, from when I wake up till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. After that time, I'm calling it a wrap. And then that's going to help adjust how many calories she gets throughout that day. And then she's focusing on her protein. She's seeing tons of results. So that's going to be one of those levers that you can flip. Another lever that you can flip that'll help you out is the type of food. That is where it says, okay, there are certain foods that I'm going to stay away from. I'm going to stay away from breads. I'm going to stay away from sweets. I'm going to stay away from sugary substances, juices, and sodas, because I understand that those things aren't going to help get me closer to my goal. And in fact, if I take those things away, I'll be able to eat some things that maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, I don't see it as a 10, but at least I can have that 8 or 9 more often, and I can have that as much as I want. It's enough freedom for me. I feel good about what I'm doing by changing the types of food that I'm eating. That's going to be huge. You can also manipulate the quantity, right? And here's one of the things that I like doing. There are some sweets that I'll have, but I'm going to reduce the quantity. Instead, I'm going to increase the proteins. I may reduce some of the simple carbs in favor of having more of the complex carbs. For me, constantly bulking, trying to gain weight is one of those things that's a bit of a challenge for me. So how I get around that is I start having to increase the quantity on all the things, or at least especially increasing the quantity on the proteins. Increasing the quantity there is going to help allow me to grow and build, because my body is getting exactly what it needs. Something that's really important with all of this is looking at when you start adjusting your time, the type, right? And the quantity, notice that's where that T comes in, right? Time, type, and quantity. Adjusting those things is going to give you a lot more freedom. You're not going to stumble over yourself. And in fact, when you do that, depending on some people that are around you, you can help prevent them from stumbling too. Romans 14 speaks a lot to this. We start at verse 20. It says, "Do not tear down the work of God for the sake of food. All things indeed are clean, but they are evil for the man who eats and gives offense. It is good not to eat meat or to drink wine or to do anything by which your brother stumbles." So when we're looking at this and we're saying, I don't want to cause my brother to stumble because of what I'm doing. If we look at that principle, one thing that's going to be really important is you want to make sure that your diet itself and what you're setting in front of you, what you're putting on your plate, doesn't cause you to stumble, doesn't cause you to quit. Obviously, like I said, there are some things, sweets, definitely alcohol, junk food, all of those things we want to limit. And especially if we've got people around us who are trying to be fit as well, we want to make sure that we're not causing them to say, okay, you know what? I feel like I'm quitting because what am I doing this for? We're supposed to be in this together. You're not even doing anything. Let's make sure that our diet helps encourage us. With this also, though, we need to make sure that we're having grace for ourselves and grace for others, okay? We want to encourage, not judge. When it comes to food especially, this is something that it can be very easy for people to think that you're looking down on them because you say, hey, this is what I'm doing and this is the absolute right way. Everybody's not built the same. Everybody's not made the same. This is one of those things where God does give us freedom. This is one of those things where we are allowed to have differing paths on what we put in our bodies. There are some things where we absolutely need to say, you stay away from. Food is not one of those things. Unless, like you're allergic to something, you're diabetic, then absolutely go ahead. Tell your friend, hey, maybe you should lay off of the donuts. Being diabetic, that's going to spike your insulin. That's going to spike your sugar levels. You don't want to have any of that. Oh, man, you know what? You're allergic to fish. You probably shouldn't be going out and trying to get some trout, right? Obviously, those things apply. But overall, for the most part, you're given a lot of freedom. And that's what your diet should provide you. Ultimately, in the end, what we're looking for is to adjust our metabolism. There are certain foods, certain practices that you can put in place that will help boost your metabolism and help give you that extra oomph and get that little extra edge with your diet, getting the most out of your diet. When we're looking at the 3 T's, those things are things that we can adjust and we can manipulate in order to help increase your metabolism and increase your effectiveness in the gym. When we're looking at the types of foods, I will tell you absolutely, you want to reduce the amount of processed foods you have. Or, may not be type, maybe quantity. Reduce the amount that you're having if you can't cut it all out. Processed foods are going to kill your metabolism. Multiple studies have shown that when you're having processed foods, your body starts building fat instead of building muscle. And that's not what we want. We want to make sure that you're burning fat, building muscle, and the processed foods are going to be your number one enemy to keep you from those goals. As I had mentioned before, you want to focus on your protein. Your protein is going to be your friend. So with your protein, that's one of those things where studies have shown if you increase your protein intake, then your metabolism is going to increase as well. And when we're looking at those two things, protein going up, metabolism going up, then hey, we've got 2 thumbs up and that's what we're looking for. All right. You want to make sure that you're having a good balanced meal, but absolutely 100% focusing on your protein is going to increase your metabolism. And it also, if you're trying to lose weight and you are saying, okay, I need to cut back on some of my foods, your protein is going to help you feel full quicker. So now you're reducing your calories that way. Water, increase your water. Increasing water is going to help increase your metabolism as well. Water and hydration is something that a lot of people neglect. We don't look at that as part of our diet because we're often looking at our diet as food, but it is everything that you consume. You want to make sure that you're increasing your water and you're staying hydrated because that also is going to help your body in the digestive process, and it will help your body assimilate all of the protein and the rich nutrients that you should be eating. Those things are huge for your success. Ultimately, when we look at this, you have the control. You get to control what goes in your body, and you get to manipulate how much and what you are going to or not going to eat. So if you look at it like a game and you say, okay, here's my progress, here's what I've done through the week, okay, and maybe I didn't do so good, I'm going to make some changes. Or you say, hey, you know what? I did good. I'm going to stay on top of this. With those controls, you look at this like a game. Consider this your Hunger Games, except there's not as much at stake. You're not stuck in the middle of the wilderness and you don't have Jennifer Lawrence chasing you with a bow and arrow trying to kill you. It still can be something that you enjoy. It still can be something that you actually look at as a challenge and you say, you know what? I can tackle this and I can do this. Go out there, look at your diet, start tracking what you're doing, see where your metabolism changes, see how much flexibility you're giving, and see where your macros are. Those are the 3 things that will really help you. And with that, understanding that you've got freedom, that biblical mindset and pertains to our food will absolutely 100% pay off. So that's going to wrap us up for our time. I want to encourage you all to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out this channel, and absolutely 100% I love the feedback. So if there's something that I've said that will help you out, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know. I'll keep that stuff coming. And if there is something that you want to hear, if there's something that you want to address, please make sure to leave that in the comment section.